the first to know. Nsem-Pii.
Samson Anyenini Otenase na etiefo na Auditor General yeka Auditor General etiefo na nyine nim Auditor General yeka na asem oso no de ni take any say the Ghana occupy Ghana ye 2017 Echo Supreme Court ekwaji order say obi bia wa bambia Auditor General be hu say what is Ghana corruption and its related activities akosubia say almost say charge na omutimi emma Ghana yensa case back no the current Auditor General committed the highest crime in the world as omabugomani eguso ama for the past 5 years sikankwa 80 billion ensi na IMF and ayira amanfo edinikwa the current 18.4 billion which is just a year 18.4 billion on the ose ote asia enyiye na we there Auditor General we are committed the highest crime say court na them because the point is say charge them na yen san case ka back ma asem nko tra why auditing we no jahoko now the Supreme Court has given you power now the we are Samson Anyenini na ni buafu na okasa etiefo yem kwa behwe we no tiri si garam say say ni paye ekọ ye na mkwa community mining sansensem nyina ni nyina owiewiri nyina ehhehye ni nyina ma etiefo na emra ncha yenko ni ngotie Samson Anyenini emra ode nsem no etudwa no emra sia
commits high crime. The Auditor General commits high crime. And I'll explain to you shortly why I say so. In 2017, June, Occupy Ghana went to the Supreme Court asking the court to compel the Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana, the Audit Service, by extension, to issue surcharges and disallowances to recover monies misused and stolen that it finds every year in its reports. The Supreme Court agreed with Occupy Ghana and did something. It gave a judgment in which it ordered the Auditor General to do a number of things. It asked the Auditor General to ensure, and these are what are known as the consequential orders of the court, after the court saying that the Auditor General, the Occupy Ghana was right in insisting that the Auditor General must be issuing disallowances and surcharges to recover funds that have been misused and stolen by public officials, even also by private individuals who do business with the state. The Supreme Court held that as a sequel to our judgment just delivered, we further direct that henceforth, the Auditor General shall take steps to recover the amount unlawfully expended from the person or persons who incurred and or authorized the disallowed expenditure. Secondly, the Auditor General shall also take steps to recover the amount from the person or persons by whom the amount ought to have been brought into accounts. Thirdly, the Auditor General shall also take steps to recover the value of the loss or deficiency from the person or persons by whose negligence or misconduct the losses or deficiencies were incurred. And the Supreme Court was careful in saying whether or not the person is a public servant. And finally, the Auditor General is hereby ordered to take all necessary steps to enforce the decisions or steps taken by the Auditor General that they have noted already to ensure compliance, including, in some cases, criminal prosecution. Then they made this comment: we have had to issue out the above consequential orders, even though we are happily aware that the current Auditor General, Mr. Daniel Yao Domelevo, has taken steps to train his staff to prepare them to adequately for the hearings in respect of surcharge and disallowance appeals anticipated under Article 187, Clause 7 of the 1992 Constitution. So why am I saying the Auditor General has committed high crime? And what is it? And what are the potential, as it were, punishments that it must suffer? And yet we have not put the Auditor General through that. When we were signing up for the $3 billion from the IMF, Occupy Ghana examined 5 years Auditor General reports. It took the reports prior to when we went to the IMF, and 5 of them, it found almost 3 times the amount we sought to save the economy, that's a 3 billion, had been misused or stolen. And all we needed was to recover those funds. We went to the IMF for $3 billion. Occupy Ghana took the Auditor General's report for 5 years, the last 5 years, previous, and found that monies misused and stolen, as found by the Auditor General, was almost 3 times what we were going to the IMF for. So all we needed was to recover those monies, chase those thieves. Now, in its 2024 report, which was released recently, 18.41 billion Ghana cedis has been misused or stolen. We need to be paying attention. 18.41 billion, not million, Ghana cedis has been misused or stolen. That is the grand corruption. We have lost almost 80 billion cedis in the last 5 years to misuse and theft. I'm talking about grand corruption. And the trend definitely will continue. It won't change. 2019 Afrobarometer found that we have normalized corruption, and this is where we are. So issuing surcharges and disallowances are important to recover the monies. Why is the Auditor General not doing it? And if you don't do it, what is the consequence? I state that and conclude my take. For the Auditor General's refusal to issue surcharges and disallowances, what are the consequences? Article 2 of the 1992 Constitution says that any person or group of persons to whom an order or direction is addressed under Clause 2 of this article by the Supreme Court, and these were the orders that were done, they were consequential orders, shall duly obey and carry out the terms of the order or direction. In clause 4, it says failure to obey or carry out the terms. Failure to obey or carry out the terms of an order or direction made or given under Clause 2 of this article constitute a high crime under this Constitution, and shall, in the case of the President or the Vice President, constitute a ground for removal from office under this constitution. The Auditor General is not president or vice president, so it's not ground for removal. But what should happen? Clause 5. A person convicted of a high crime under clause 4 of this article shall be liable to imprisonment not exceeding 10 years without the option of a fine, and shall not be eligible for election or for appointment to any public office for 10 years, beginning with the date of the expiration of the term of imprisonment. This Auditor General or any other Auditor General in that office who have blatantly refused to issue disallowances and surcharges, denying us close to 80 billion Ghana cedis, 80 billion Ghana cedis in the last 5 years alone, have committed high crime, and they ought to suffer the punishment, 10 years in jail, and disqualified from ever holding public office. This will be my take. We'll be right back. Tomani Buama and the 7 others where they met their death in fighting Galamsey. It is your ministry, the ministry that you work with, that organized this program for which they were attending. First of all, this particular program, what was it about?
Well, so first off, Samson, once again, good morning to yourself and to the rest of our audience across the globe. The program, which unfortunately was marred by this unfortunate event, is what we refer to as the Responsible Cooperative Mining and Skills Development Program, or otherwise known as the RCOMSDEP. Now, what the RCOMSDEP seeks to do basically is to upskill what we have had in the past. That is specifically the Community Mining Scheme and the National Alternative Livelihood Program, National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program, the NALEP. The reason we are bringing this on board is that upon examination, we realized that there were a couple of defects with those 2 vehicles. The defects we realized principally was the fact that instead of being communal in outlook, it became an avenue for the political elite to venture into the enterprise of mining, in the sense that for the community mining scheme, for instance, you had people who were sitting, for instance, in Accra. They would acquire the license, they would go through all the facilitation process, and then they would go to the communities and then begin the mining without the participation and the buy-in or the cooperation of the local folks. And we realized that became a problem. So what this latest intervention does is that it now sees the entire process of, or the entire facilitation and the operationalization of the mining in the local enclaves to properly the local people. That way, it is community owned, it is community facilitated, and then of course the community gets to profit from that venture as well. So that is basically
how is this program or project a solution to Galamsey?
It is a solution in the sense that if you go to many of the local communities, the mining communities, the justification a good number of them have consistently given for getting involved is the fact that they do not have an active economic enterprise. Basically, they do not work, and that is their justification. What we are now doing is that if it is indeed true that they do not work, and maybe mining is what they want to do, we want them to do that in a more responsible and sustainable manner. This time around, not recklessly or arbitrarily. It's going to be done with recourse to appropriate protocols and procedures.
But this already provided for in law, community mining, which the previous administration was also championing, correct?
Correct, but the defect we noticed was that indeed the characterization and the labeling was community mining, but existentially in terms of operations, it was not communal, and that is what the point I was making earlier. That you had people who, for example, were living in Accra. They would acquire the licenses, go into the communities, and then they'll be doing it on their own terms without the cooperation of the people in the community, given that the program was supposed to be communal. That's the problem that we had. So now we are just ceding it completely to the local folks. The local authorities will be involved, the DCs, everybody in a selected enclave in a particular local jurisdiction will be actively involved. It won't have any political interference or any big man, so to speak, coming on board.
That's appreciated. Hold on for me. Awola, thank you for joining us. Do you see any difference between this and the community mining project that the Akufo-Addo administration was pursuing?
Thank you very much for having me. There are some differences. They are going to short circuit the issuing of licenses, but that doesn't solve the problem. There are some differences in the framework. But for me, as an environmental activist, what we are looking at is where is the compliance framework? Because the fatal flaw with community mining was the lack of enforcement. The same fatal flaw is in cooperative mining. If you don't address that, you can give the licenses in record time. It can be going to be cooperative mining. You could have put a framework for the sharing. But that does not address the fact that if you don't have proper monitoring systems in place, it will open the door, just like community mining opened the door to more illegal mining. So that is
look in the crystal ball and tell me that you have faith that this program will do what the community mining was unable to do, and Galamsey would have ended.
I don't.
Say that again.
That is going to be the case. And let me say also that there's a lot of. I've said that I'm not quite sure that will be the case because I haven't seen any rigorous enforcement framework in place. And let me be also clear. We have concerns from farming communities who say that they don't want cooperative mining, just like community mining, to be forced down their throat. They should be entrenched, the right of communities to refuse it. For example, you have Yakrom, where, according to our contacts there, excavators were brought with armed men and they wanted to start whatever mining you want to call it. They said they don't want it. And they showed us videos of their cocoa farms. So they are saying that their livelihood is from farming. They don't want mining. And then we have the communities in Atronsu, Asemkrom, who have also resisted mining. So let's not kid ourselves that mining is the only livelihood. I do understand that you're bringing alternative livelihoods. But when it comes to mining, whether you call it community mining, whether you call it cooperative mining, apart from entrenching the rights of communities to reject it, you also need to be sure that those who want to go down that road, that you can monitor their activities, so that if there are reports that they are straying outside the confines of their license, something is promptly done about it. As Professor Frimpong Boateng told us, if you have a mining license and you go outside the confines of your license, you're engaged in illegal mining. Having a license does not cure the fact that the mining can be illegal. It's not the license that, what shall I say, ensures that you're going to mine legally.
So let's get it to this point where we wanted the two of you to help us appreciate for the discussion. You also belong to the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, and you issued a statement last week and said you wanted the declaration of a state of emergency, as in targeted state of emergency, to apprehend the forces persistently fueling this environmental crime and gradually bringing our country to its knees. What exactly would the state of emergency do? Because as it appears, the government, the previous and now, are not, they don't want to do that.
Well, I'm not sure why they don't want to do that. We face an existential threat. Our water bodies are being poisoned, our forests decimated, and we know that our farmlands are also being poisoned. So the poison has entered the food chain. So we are signing our death warrants, and I don't quite understand what we think should be done to solve the problem. Fine, you want to find alternative livelihood, fantastic. Fine, you want to have cooperative mining. That is an option that you are thinking of, but you have to be prepared to nip this in the bud. It's gone out of control.
What will the state of emergency do?
A state of emergency, as I understand it, will ensure that you're using your armed forces, your Navy, your Air Force to remove the environmental terrorists and their equipment. You can do, first of all, no political interference. They are giving clear terms of reference. It is not shoot to kill. The primary objective is not to go around Rambo style, killing everybody in sight. Of course not. What you are trying to do, that's why it's targeted. What you are trying to do is to go to the hotspot and remove the environmental terrorists and their equipment. So, of course, if they open fire to defend yourself, you will return fire. But that's not your primary objective. Your primary objective is to go at the same time with you have done your reconnaissance, you know the strength you need to go with. You know how many people are involved, the kind of strength you must go with to be able to overpower the environmental terrorists.
And that's already happening without a state of emergency. I guess that's the point of the government, that we can do that without declaring a state of emergency.
Well, if you can do that, you see, I'm not hung up on you have to use the term state of emergency. I'm more interested in what the fight back is looking like. As we speak right now, I can't see what it's looking like. We were told that 9 forest reserves had been reclaimed, the 9 forest reserves that were no-go areas. One of them included the Jimera Forest Reserve. Our information is that the environmental terrorists are there. Recently, according to the information we received, I'm not there to verify, but credible information is that 50 excavators went there.
Okay.
Earlier on, forestry staff who had gone there, believing that they had actually been reclaimed, were ambushed. And it is only by God's grace that they were not murdered. So we can see that although efforts are being made, they have not been sustained.
Okay.
And we also have to say that you need to have a number where the community, it cannot be just do what. If I can just finish, you can see excavators going there. If the police command, national security will not do anything about it, at least the community should be able to have a number where they can call and there'll be a rapid response. We don't have to wait for 50 excavators to get there before we set up.
All right. Thank you very much. I need you to state one more time and finally that
tragic deaths of